Welcome everyone to Business Agility with a Greenfield-ish project. So I'm Nick Walker. Thank you very much for the introduction. And I'm here because I love to give presentations, apparently. This is my third one I think I've done at Agile Roundabout. I must be a bit of a glutton for punishment. You can find me at Nick Walker, and then, as I said, News UK Tech, Agile Roundabout. So I want to talk about business agility, and I think everyone kind of immediately goes, oh yeah, I know what business agility means. I didn't, and it was only a few years ago when I went to some of the bigger Agile conferences that I really started to go, oh yeah, that kind of all makes sense, and it was actually a term that encompassed something. So I want to just throw some ideas out at you and see if some of those land and see if we get some alignment on agreement. But I want to also start and see if anyone kind of gets some nodding heads in the room about some of the common challenges that maybe spur some investment into business agility. So first of all, imagine you work in a tech team, and as we've discovered, most of you work in a tech team, and your commercial department says, oh, we've got this great opportunity. If only we could deliver this new feature. Okay, cool. Maybe we can overcome that challenge. It all kind of works. But then it's not part of the marketing team's plans. So you can't do it. So it's not that you can't do it, but it's that someone else can't do it. So legal. You want to use a new technology. We want to use Circle CI. We want to use GitLab or something like that. But because you work in a big company like this, it needs an NDA. It needs contract approval. It needs to go through a nice long legal process, and therefore it's not going to happen very quickly. And then my favorite, human resources. You need to hire a new team because you've got this thing. You've got legal over the line, you've got commercial over the line, and then you need to hire a new team. But to hire perms takes a long time. You need to go through some big long process. You need to ensure that you've got all the funding. You need to kind of work all these things out. Far too long. All of a sudden you're hiring contractors at £600 a day, and it's really, really expensive. Some of these kind of symptoms I'm sure you're all very familiar with, but this is some of the reasons why you try and work towards business agility. And then my favourite, something that I'm going to talk about a little bit more, but certainly something that we've experienced, we want AI and machine learning. We want blockchain. How many people have heard that, right? But do you know how to fucking use it? And that's one of the things. It's like we can talk about building something, but unless the marketing teams are aligned, the legal teams are aligned, and all those other teams are aligned, it may fall flat on its face, and then usually technology is the ones that suffer. So I want to talk about some of the positive sides of what business agility is and what you should be looking to see. So ability to adapt to customer needs, time to market, increased competitive advantage, and effective collaboration between departments, reduced organisational costs. Everyone with me so far? Great. And I think fundamentally it summarises to me in two things. Right now we move like this. Technology moving forwards towards something. Maybe you get one department to go with you. Great, you've got marketing, so now you deliver a feature, you've got marketing to sell it for you, but actually that's where business agility sits. Everyone moving together in the same direction. And for us, I kind of summarised it as business agility, as a company, have the ability to adapt quickly and take advantage of changing market conditions to best meet our customers' needs. So that's my interpretation of business agility. That's how, keep that in your minds as we kind of go through the rest of this. So, excuse me, swing a bit. So we had an opportunity about maybe 4 months ago, where along with some other colleagues of mine at the back, we got asked, go rebuild an entire tech stack which underpins our entire business model. Cool. And just give you a bit more of insight of what that actually means. So we are looking after what previously was known as digital platforms, which is a nice meaningless term. But actually it was about monetization, access and identity. So that's platform as a service, or that's how we see it. There's a suite of APIs that allow for those features and functions. So you're thinking about paywalls, you're thinking about identity services, so log in, log out, personalization, that sort of thing, and then ultimately how we take your money. We want to be able to build those services and scale that across not just one title, but multiple titles. Sounds really nice, right? It's a great opportunity, lots to do, cool. But what we also want you to do is build the future, because subscriptions don't work. And as the kind of market saturation hits, you need to find other ways to sell our media to everyone else out there. So no small opportunity, but I use that word on purpose. It's very much an opportunity for us to change the way that we do business with everyone. But back to my point about, hey, I want blockchain, I want this. We get asked quite a lot for, I want a dynamic paywall. But do you know how to use a dynamic paywall? Do you even know what dynamic paywall is? Hence the kind of move towards business agility. So when we started out, we thought to ourselves, right, where are we kind of, on this? Do we have alignment? Do we have buy-in? Do we have the kind of hearts and minds of everyone? We said, what do our teams look like? What are our objectives and our OKRs? Do we align? Do we have the same as the business? Do we have the same as marketing, as commercial? What happens when we need to change? Something goes wrong. Like, how quickly can we change, and does everyone align? And how does it feel, ultimately? And I wrote that point a few times when I was preparing this, because I thought to myself, it's quite wishy-washy, and I don't like wishy-washy, but you can actually put that into some proper metrics. So you do, like, you have Spotify health checks or equivalent to actually put some numbers around this to track change over time. Put that in there. So, where do you think we are on the scale? Did you use your imagination considering we're News UK? There! So, one great thing about having that opportunity was there was very much a willingness to make that change. Whereas we're quite far away from having all of those good things, and certainly the past few weeks have been a bit rocky, I would say we're about there. But it's a journey. And anyone who has seen my talks before, I always talk about the idea of journey. You need to take everyone on that journey. And this is our journey of business agility. So what do we do is kind of the first steps. Lots of workshops. So we talked about a number of topics. First one was about process and governance. And we kind of understood that we were very unaligned and didn't have a real clear view of how decisions were made. It was very much us and them. It was very much someone made a decision and had a conversation with someone else, and then everyone else suffers the consequences, or doesn't, and then things take a shit ton of time, and then nothing happens. We had no champions. We had no one that was really leading the charge to make this happen. And I think there's a big difference between having the desire to make something happen and having people actually going to make it happen. Disparate objectives. My objective is I want to have a frictionless series of services that you can use in less than 2 weeks. Commercial's objectives are I want 1 million subscribers. 1 million subscribers in next year. Kind of doesn't match up. Time, we almost never work together. We don't sit together. We're in the same building. We don't interact unless it's one of those kind of meetings where you kind of sit and try and distill 3-4 weeks worth of stuff into 45 minutes. Context. Stars were aligning, but we weren't quite there yet. So we had this idea of, right, we need to change the business, we need to build something new. It's getting there. And something that I've even fallen foul of here, so it's still not quite perfect, us and them, the business. Tech, the business. Even that in itself kind of breeds this us and them mentality. So as you can see, that's kind of my scale of why we're on that end of the scale. So there's one thing that stuck out, and it's apparently it's an old Chinese proverb, and I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was on some Twitter feed about a month or so ago. But it really kind of resonated with me about that idea of journey. It was the idea of tell me and I'll forget, show me and I'll remember, and include me and I'll understand. Which is interesting because I'm telling you all this, so hopefully you won't forget it. But that idea of including me and I'll understand kind of really sat with me. So when we had those workshops, we included people from the business. And there I am again, the business. But we included people from other areas of the company. And it actually made a significant difference because then all of a sudden we started to build that understanding. What were my challenges? What were their challenges? Although it takes a long time to understand each other, we started to erode those things. So what do we do? Let's talk about the kind of 6 areas that I talked about. Process and governance. We now include key people throughout our regular day-to-day process and governance. So some of that is about finding the right person and ensuring that they have the right authority. We found those people and included them in the day-to-day process. Champions. We put people in positions, made them accountable, and supported them. if the business really want this change, and when I'm talking about business that I do it, use the right context of the exec as a business, if you really want to change this, you want to make a shit ton of money, you want to make everyone happy and more cost effective and all that type of stuff, you need to empower people and support them in making that change. So we've got a couple of those people now. Hopefully I'm one of them. Well, I think I'm one of them, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about this. We've got some other people as well that are from quite different backgrounds, and it's our job to kind of come together and make some of this stuff happen. Disparate objectives. I think this is a real tough one, and to be honest with you, we haven't quite cracked it. I don't think we'll ever get to a point where we have the same objective, actually, here in News UK, because some of those are quite contextual to what I do, what marketing does, what commercial does. But where we couldn't align, we at least shared and understood. So if my objectives are around cost saving or having frictionless services, whereas marketing objectives are to increase subscriber count, at least we could understand each other and why they came to that. And actually, how they link to one another. If I have frictionless services and you can use them in 2 weeks, that means you can make change faster. If you can make change faster, it means you do experiments faster. If you do experiments faster, you can increase your subscribers faster. And it's kind of the idea of understanding all of those hops. Time. Still a struggle. And I think this is another one, if I had a time machine, I probably wouldn't be here. But having the time together and working together has made a huge, huge difference. And whereas I think that will ebb and flow depending on the context of what's happening at the time, that has made a significant difference for us, is just spending time with people. That camaraderie starts to really build up. Context. Plans are coming together. We want to build it. They want to use it. Good. Us and them. The business, again, using that term, is now just a part of that team. The challenges to overcome. If you kind of get the governance and process right, the engagement and alignment right, so governance, process, engagement and alignment, so it's objectives, it changes that culture and behaviour. And I think that's going to be the thing that holds us in good stead for the years to come. And I would heartily recommend those are the areas that you focus on in your own journey. So we've got some objectives that we're starting to align on, or at least kind of understand from each other. Return on investment. So if we spend money, how much money do we make? What's the difference between those two things? Are they in the right ratio? Speed of change. How quickly can we, as a whole entity, make changes? And data is at the heart of everything. Research over instinct. Something, if any of you work in media, you find that editorial is king, and they seem to have an opinion that overrules everyone else's, even if you've been working in data or marketing for your entire life, somehow editorial is still right. Put data in the front of that, facts overrule everything else. So, what have we seen kind of so far? Culture and behaviour, we've started to use the same language. We're no longer, well, someone at the back is going to tell me otherwise. We started to stop using things like dynamic paywall, and we started to use things like profitable media business. It's slightly different, but it makes a big difference. We have the same motivations because we've got the same kind of ideas, the same type of objectives, same type of language. Understanding, appreciating of teams' needs. We hold retros in technology. It's quite a common cornerstone of how people run their process. Marketing do not. But now they're included in our retros, and they have an appreciation for why we run those things. And actually, being part of those has been quite good. And camaraderie. I think this kind of goes hand in hand with the idea of culture, but camaraderie is building between us. Although we're only kind of 4 months into this journey, and it was on a spur of the moment that I kind of picked this topic for today, but it kind of forces you to really focus on it. And camaraderie, I think, is the big thing that's going to carry us through, back to that idea of culture. If you have an appreciation and understanding of people around you, you have a lot better outcome when you do get hit with those challenges, or you do get hit with those hard deadlines. And real alignment. I kind of talked about some of those objectives on the previous slide. We have a joined up business case, I hope. At 5 o'clock today, not so much. But next week, there is going to be a business case for the Times. And for the first time, in my opinion, that's been joined up with technology. So I'm not going to be put down there, as the risk anymore of not being able to deliver for FY, the next financial year. You didn't deliver against these objectives. Well, you didn't tell us about them, so how could I possibly? Now it's joined up, And I think that's a big, big difference and a big, big step change for us. Was it perfect? Was it easy? No. But it's getting there. We have executive buy-in, pending 9:30 tomorrow. But what that does mean is when we succeed together. When we fail, we learn, and we learn together. There is an element now of 4 months in, now I've got to prove it. And I do think there is an element of hard deadlines. So News UK operates an Australian financial year, which runs from July, which is really weird and blew my mind when I came here. But that means we're putting those business cases in now. So when we started kind of 4 months ago, we had that hard deadline to get that all in place, work together, figure it all out. So there's nothing like a deadline to try and get us there. And because we've got a financial year starting in July, you best believe those targets begin from July. So now we've got to prove that actually all of this is making a difference. So what's next for us? And some advice for all of you starting out on this kind of journey. We've got a happy cross-functional team for now. I think that any of you who have been Scrum Masters or work in that space, there's always that thing of like, I do myself out of a job and then everyone's happy and then I can just walk away and do something else. But actually, if you don't keep putting the effort in, it's not going to sustain. So we need to kind of keep that momentum going. We need to keep working at some of these things and we keep building that camaraderie and culture. So what are the things, and the animation hasn't gone with this, which just sucks. Achieving business agility takes time. We're 4 months in, and we've made, for me, the biggest milestone and the biggest thing that I would say is an achievement out of all of this is we have a fairly unified business case. When we fail next year, or if we fail, should I say, I'm not going to be sold down the river. We failed together. We learned together. And, I used to work on the sun. That wasn't the case. I shouldn't say that, but there you go. It's a change, and I'm hoping that we'll be the vanguard for everyone else in the business, to do that as well. Break the mold, involve everyone, get those people in with you. Don't be afraid to invite someone to a workshop or a session that feels really, really alien to them, such as a retro, such as a user story mapping session, such as a roadmap session, such as just any sort of session, and bring them into that. If that means you have to spend twice as long getting them to the point where they're useful or understand the purpose, then do so, because it will pay dividends in the end. Be patient as well. There are some areas that we haven't quite cracked, and I'm reticent to do so. HR, I think, is a very good example, and one of the interesting things I saw when I went to Agile 2018 last year, some of the kind of stalwarts there were talking about some of the challenges that the industry faces, and they said, actually, it's not us in terms of technology, but it's going to be your HR, it's going to be your legal, it's going to be your finance. And interestingly, I made the mistake of telling someone in HR that they were stuck in the 90s. And that maybe some of their processes should change, which didn't obviously meet very well. But it's going to take time to work on these people. But if you get them there in the end, if you see even those small benefits, take them for when you can. And the last thing that I'll leave you with, because a lot of this, I realise, you go, business agility, it just sounds like you're doing Agile or you're doing some kind of normal technology process. But remember, kind of back to one of the original slides I put out at the beginning was, you're no longer then doing this as a technology or a product team or a cross-functional team within the technology department. You're doing this as an entire business. And you're no longer saying the business and tech, you're saying everyone. But you probably know all the techniques and all the things how to do this. You know how to bring people into workshops. You know how to get people engaged. Now you have to use it with everyone else. And that means it takes a lot longer, but the reward will be much, much bigger. And that's it. Thank you very much.